Figure it out.
Hello, this is Adam Koralik from Figured Out Productions. The following video is a video of some kind, and I hope you enjoy it.
Hey guys, it's Adam here, and today we're going to be looking at this. This is a package that comes from StoneAgeGamer.com. Full disclosure, before we get started, this was sent to me absolutely for free for the purposes of review by Stone Age Gamer. Those guys are awesome. They've made getting things that were previously produced in small numbers, like overseas, very readily available for those of us in North America, and then they do like upgrades and make the things nice and pretty. So for all your retro gaming needs, man, seriously, check out StoneAgeGamer.com. Links in the description. Thank you so much to those guys for doing that. But now, and I swear that wasn't like a paid advertisement. I know it sounded like that, but I actually legitimately feel that way. They're awesome over there. Like all these, there's so many awesome people in the retro gaming community, and Stone Age Gamer is just yet another one of them. So they've sent me things in the past, and I've liked a lot of that stuff, and I've done videos on that stuff. And this one I'm very excited about because this is for a platform I never ever talk about. I think I've done one video on this thing ever in like any context. And well, it'll be making a cameo here in a second, but yeah, whatever. Let's just open it up and talk about it in greater detail. What's going on? What is this thing? Oh, you're gonna find out, and it's gonna be bizarre. Now, obviously, I haven't used it yet because the package is still sealed up, but you will see the goodies and the coolness that is inside. All right, opening it up here, they sent the item itself, which we'll go over in just a moment. They also sent some other random oddities here. Oh, no, I guess, yeah, just, oh, okay, yes, no, right, there's multiple things. Let's get rid of the box. First and foremost, they hooked me up with a few different things. We got a bunch of Stone Age Gamer stickers, very adorable, with his nice little Atari 2600 controller there. Also, a Stone Age Gamer pin, very cool. What is this? Please, let's take a look at this. I'm not sure what this is. Oh wait, I take it back. I think I do know what this is, but yeah, okay. All right, let's take a look. Ah, yes, this is a it looks like a Mortal Kombat inspired face mask. Somehow not as cool on me, but yeah, that's still pretty cool that they hooked me up with that. That's neat. I'm sure it's not really meant for like medical use or anything. And it also includes, it looks like, I'm not sure what these are. They look like pads. Maybe I think they're probably meant to be put in this thing. Not totally sure, obviously, but thank you. That was a nice little bonus. Wasn't expecting that. It also included this, which is, oh, it looks like their new shirt design. Yeah, Stone Age Gamer. Yeah, they've been around since 2007. They're OG in the retro gaming community. Looks like an NES controller behind him. Yeah, nice shirt. It's got like a soft felt, not felt, just a soft material, cloth, obviously. Very similar to the Division shirt I'm wearing right now. But yeah, very cool. So thank you guys very much for that. Wasn't expecting that stuff. But what I was expecting was this. This is the NeoPocket Game Drive. Originally produced by RetroHQ. This is the Stone Age Gamer version. Now, what this is a flash cart for this, the Neo Geo Pocket. You know, a platform I've like never talked about ever on this channel, with one exception. We'll get back to that in a second. But yeah, that's what this is. Well, I almost dropped it. That's what this is for. Now, if you're not familiar with a flash cart, it's I hate to use this term because it's wrong, but it does explain it to a lot of people. It's an Everdrive for the Neo Geo Pocket. Now, it's not actually an Everdrive because Everdrive is a brand created by Crix. This is not created by Crix. This was originally created by RetroHQ, which is a British company, or a British group. I'm not sure how many people are actually there, but it was British. It is not made by Crix. But Everdrive has just somehow become synonymous with the concept of a flash cart, where kind of like the way Kleenex is known as tissues, even though that's not really what they are. But regardless, that's what it is. Now, their version, the Stone Age Gamer version, comes in this nice package, which has, incidentally, more stickers inside, another one of those, plus a NeoPocket sticker, and a guide, like a quick book guide on like how the thing works, which is very cool. And then it also has the cart itself, which is cool, and then like just, you know, obviously this case. Now, the thing is, it also came with an SD card. In this case, it's an 8 GB SD card. I was only expecting a 4 GB SD card. Now, okay, so here's the thing. There's lots to unpack here. Obviously, I haven't used it yet. It's not preloaded with anything as far as I know. Originally, the little history of this thing is that RetroHQ started making these, I think it was actually a couple of years ago, so it's not like this is a new piece of tech. But what happened was they were relatively hard to get because RetroHQ was doing all their own distribution. And I know there was a couple different versions of it. I know the cases weren't always considered the best. But now that Stone Age Gamers got them, they're more readily available, particularly to those of us in the US and Canada. You can get them, and you can also get the nice Stone Age Gamer bundle here. They gave me a choice on the design. There's 3 options. There's one that looks like the AES, which is what I've got. There's one that looks like MVS aesthetics, and then there's one that looks like Neo Geo Pocket aesthetics. I was never even considering the MVS one, but the other two I was kind of back and forth. I'm like, it is actually a Neo Geo Pocket, so maybe that would make sense. But then at the same time, I was like, you know what? I always tend to think of Neo Geo as the AES, so I like that aesthetic. Plus, it's black. I like black. Let's go with black. So that's exactly what I did. But you would have your choice. Now, I wasn't expecting the 8GB card. I was expecting a 4GB card. And you might be thinking, like, dude, that's really small. Doesn't matter. So here's the thing. The ROM set for the Neo Geo Pocket Color is really small. I think it's like 100 megabytes, maybe 150. There were only 76 games ever released for this thing. I think it was 76 games. It did not last long. Now, it's interesting, actually. The Neo Geo Pocket Color is in a very, very small minority of platforms where it failed not because it was bad, but because its corporate overlords suddenly didn't have the interest or finances to continue with it. The other great example of that would be the Sega Dreamcast, where the Dreamcast was amazing, Sega just ran out of money. What happened with them is like, obviously the focus of this video is not the history of the Neo Geo Pocket Color, but here's the super short elevator pitch. SNK wanted to release it to compete with the Game Boy in the late 90s, more specifically the Game Boy Color. And they put a lot of effort into it. They made a great little portable. They put out a lot of really good games. But they were shortly after it was released, they had a corporate merger with another company called Playmore. So you've probably seen the name SNK Playmore on a lot of stuff. Once they were that new corporate entity, their interests changed and they no longer wanted anything to do with the Neo Geo Pocket. So it was discontinued relatively quickly despite being good. And I actually remember that's how I got one. What happened is they didn't know what to do with all the surplus units, so I think they did like a mass sell-off to, at the time, I think it would have been Electronics Boutique, which doesn't really exist anymore except in Canada. And I think parts of Europe actually, but it's still GameStop now as one single entity, even though they don't call it GameStop. But anyway, so they sold a bunch of them there, and I remember going into a store and just seeing this exact Neo Geo Pocket in like a bubble wrap thing, and it had like 10 games with it, and it was like the whole bundle was like 50 bucks. And I've heard a lot of stories of people being like, yeah, dude, that's exactly how I got mine, because they were all, everybody had the same reaction. We were just surprised to see it and see it with so many games, but we didn't know that was why, is they were getting rid of it and they didn't know what to do with the units. So yeah, I still have my original one here. It's cool actually. Like, this platform has been receiving, I call it platform, not a console, because it's not a home console, it is a portable, but this platform has been receiving a lot of attention over the last couple of years, and I partially attribute this to my buddy Radical Reggie over at in the Metal Jesus crew, because he's been championing this thing for years. I think he's the only person I know who either has a full set or he's just about to. I even tried to help him track down some of the last games he was looking for on trips to Japan, but you know, that's you know, it was like that happened, and I know now you can get mods for better screens. The screen replacement thing is an option, and obviously this exists. So we're gonna go over this in a second. But it's funny, man. Like, I haven't really given this thing much attention, other than I think I picked up a couple Japanese games I found in junk bins. But really, other than that, I hadn't really done much, with one other exception, which is this, the Neo Geo Pocket to Dreamcast link cable. Now, it's very fitting that those two had a cable, because like I said, they're in a super rare club of like two platforms that failed yet were awesome anyway. So the idea that you could link them together is amazing. I did a video on this a decade ago. And it's just what it sounds like. It's a link cable. So there were games that were made on both platforms by SNK that allowed compatibility. So for example, Cool Cool Tune was one of them. There's a Cool Cool Tune on Neo Geo Pocket. There's a Cool Cool Tune on the Dreamcast. And so if you played both at the same time and you had them linked up, you would get additional things, you know, like extra characters or maps or whatever, depending on how that particular game would have handled it. There's also a Sonic the Hedgehog game on here that I believe Sega made, or at least authorized. I don't remember exactly who developed it, but the idea was that Sega looked at the Game Boy as one of their competitors. They weren't making a handheld, but Nintendo's their competitor, and they thought, SNK, you want to compete? Enemy of my enemy, buddy. And so they had a little bit of a merger there. Not really not real merger. It was like they were going for the same idea that Nintendo had with the Game Boy Advance and the GameCube that eventually would come to fruition. This was just like the infancy version, but it's cool to see like two competitors come together to compete against someone else specifically. But anyway, none of that really matters. What we're going to do, I just thought you'd find it interesting. What we're going to do now is I have to go set the card up. So the game does the device does not come preloaded with like a ROM set. You have to get that yourself, which is naughty, but we have to do it anyway. So I'm not going to give you specific advice on how to do that, but Google it. But anyway. Once you do that, you dump all the ROMs onto the SD card. Now, again, it's going to be very small. It's not going to take very long. My understanding is there's no real setup needed beyond that. You just kind of throw them on there, and it won't take up that much space. The card itself needs to be formatted to either FAT32 or FAT16. FAT16, I don't see the point of doing unless you have a 4 GB card or less, because if you format it to FAT16, the card itself will be capped at 4 GB until you reformat it. So I'll do FAT32 with this particular card. General advice for SD cards and these things, don't buy Chinese cheap clone cards. Get name brand ones, get legit ones, because a lot of the times those clone cards are bad and they're cheap and defective for a reason. So get solid ones. And it just kind of depends. You can obviously share this card between different devices if you want to. I try to go for dedication, there's one card per thing, but whatever, that's up to you. But anyway, let's go ahead and get that set up, and then I'll show it to you guys in action. Alright, so I've been using this thing for a while now, and it's time for final thoughts. So overall, it's pretty good. It does exactly what it says it's going to do. There's no like real surprises to it. It does have a couple of operational quirks, I guess you might want to call it, that I think are worth noting, but they're not really bad. So like, I'm going to boot it up here. I have it connected with a power supply because I hate batteries. Now here's the thing that is not the fault of this device, is that you'll notice that mine is blinking a lot and you get this error screen that says sub battery dead, memory failure imminent, change sub battery. That has nothing to do with the flash card if you see this. That is just because the Neo Geo Pocket actually uses two different types of power supplies. One is traditional batteries and one is like a watch battery. The traditional batteries you can replace very easily, or you can use a power supply as I am doing. But the other one is a watch battery that's there for like saving games and stuff like that. And that's why you're getting this flashing light warning, or at least why I'm getting it. So if you run into that, change the watch battery if you care. I don't have one sitting around, and I don't really need one for the purposes of this video, but yeah, just letting you know what that is. So anyway, that stuff aside, when you boot it up, after you get past the initial like Neo Geo Pocket boot up screen, you'll see a thing that says RetroHQ, and it'll say what version you have, which in my case is version 1.02. And then you'll get to this little screen that I apologize because it's probably going to be hard to see this, but you have the flash memory on one side and you have the card on the other. So let's go over the card first. In order to get to that, you press the option button. And then inside, that's like every file you've chose to put on the SD card. Now, originally, I just kind of dropped everything into the root directory. I had a total of 118 files, even though there's really only like 76 games. That also includes like duplicates based on region, like you can have one game from Japan, then you can have the American version, or you can have prototypes, or you can have demos, that sort of stuff. So that added up to about 118, which, as I recall, was only like 117 megabytes. Like, it was not big. Or maybe it was 171 megabytes. Either way, not big, especially for an 8 gigabyte SD card. And that's everything ever written for it, save for maybe some homebrew or whatever. Now, I noticed that the Neo Geo Pocket did not seem to like having that many games listed in the directory, or the root directory, so it would take a long time between pages. It would chug, which was not unexpected. That's a common thing with flash cards. So what I do in these cases is I create subdirectories, folders, of just kind of breaking them up a bit. So in my case, I did A to C, D to E, F to I, K to L, M by itself, N to O, P by itself, R by itself, S by itself, and T to Z. Anyway, so once you do that, you break it up, and it can be a little bit more efficient to get to your games by adding that, because it won't take quite as long to find the specific one you want. That's relatively simple. Now, when you find the game you want, let's just say we're going to go with Sonic. I want to play Sonic. Must go fast. So I'm going to click A. There's information below to tell you what to press. You have the menu button and you have the confirm button. So you'll see a bunch of games there, and you have like SNK versus this and that, and then you can see it occasionally. I have to scroll down to read. Now you see there's two versions of Sonic, one being the American version, the other being the Japanese version. But at this point, if you want to, you can select the game and load it into the flash memory. So I'm going to go ahead and do that. So by pressing A on Sonic. Now it says flashing. Here's the thing. The flashing process on this takes a really, 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 really long time. And so it's clear that they were aware of this, and that this would be something of an issue. So there is actually a way to try and compensate for that. So I'll show it to you in greater detail when we get to it. But when we first booted it up, you saw that there was the option for SD cards, and then there was the flash memory. Traditionally, on things like the Everdrive, they all work this way, where you just find your ROM set and you click on the game, and then it flashes it to the internal memory of the cartridge, and then from there it boots. And when you reboot the console and reboot the cartridge, that same game is still sitting in the flash memory. So at that point, if you wanted to start the same game, you could immediately. That's how most of these things work. This one's a little unique in that the flash memory is much bigger than usual. And that allows you to have multiple games stored in the flash memory. In this case, the flash memory is a whopping 15 megabytes, which obviously sounds like nothing, because it basically is, but Neo Geo Pocket games are so small that that's actually pretty substantial. That's enough to host, I would say on average, maybe 10 different games. And so what you could do is sit there and load 10 games in advance and just keep them in the flash memory. Once they're in the flash memory, you're able to boot them up much quicker than you normally would be able to. It's still loading, by the way, or flashing. So it can sit there in there, and then you can click on whichever one you want. Now, that has pluses and minuses. The plus is the efficiency. Your favorite games could be sitting there waiting to go, and you can hold multiple. You also actually can remove the SD card at that point, because say you're that guy who's like, there's really only 10 games on this thing I would ever care to play. I'm going to preload them all, and I don't want to use the SD card in here anymore for whatever reason. You can remove it, and all your favorite 10 games will be there. It's just that you're limiting yourself to basically 10 games at that point. All right, so it has finally completed the flash. So we go back over to the flash area, and you'll see I have 3 games sitting there now. I've got King of Fighters, one of them, Metal Slug First Mission, and Sonic the Hedgehog. Now, okay, each one of those claims to be about 2 megabytes, and it's claiming I have 9 megabytes remaining. Okay, so you get that. Now, that's cool. I like that they did that to compensate for it. There's just one flaw with that, which is traditionally on things like Everdrives, when you go to flash it again, it has to erase the previous content, which makes sense. In this case, it doesn't do that. It actually, because it's just filling up the space that's there. So you actually have to manually delete stuff, which is not a big deal. It's just something to be aware of, that you do have to kind of micromanage this thing a little bit more than you would an Everdrive. But the offset of that is, again, that you can have multiple games ready to go, whereas in an Everdrive, traditionally anyway, you could really only have one. So let's go ahead and load up Sonic the Hedgehog. So press A. Then the starting speed on that is it's not amazing, but it's not bad. And then, but once it's past that, it's just like having it on a regular cartridge, no issues whatsoever, save for this stupid battery failure issue, but that's not the fault of the card. But while we wait for it to load there, remember that once again, like I said, the SD card at this point, I actually don't even need in there. I'll show it to you guys. I'll reboot it. But Sega, ooh, how nice, especially with this thing just sitting right here. But yeah, Sonic the Hedgehog Pocket Adventure. A pretty good game. Load times are exactly the same as they always would have been, non-existent, because it is just a cartridge. I mean, a cartridge like this on a console is traditionally, it's just a single ROM on a chip, and then the console or platform, whatever, is just kind of determining which one or what it, it just kind of determines what it is and then just plays it. This is essentially just a rewritable ROM, and it just kind of extracts whichever game you want from the SD card, loads it into the flash, and then throws that into the ROM. So from the hardware perspective, the console doesn't know any different. It's exactly the same original experience, which is really nice. So as they say right here, the convenience of an emulator with the accuracy of original hardware. So now at this point, what I'm going to do is remove the SD card, not in the console or platform, and then I will power it back up. Again, the flash card itself is still in there, just not the SD card. And so once we have to, again, sit through this annoying error message. Like, the other thing that's dumb about it, and this is my fault, it has nothing to do with the device, the NeoPocket, but you have to reset the system memory like a lot. So like I have to change like, oh, do I want it in English or Japanese? What's the calendar date? That sort of thing. That's the stuff that's bypassed if you replace the watch battery. Anyway, so sitting here, it still has the 3 games sitting in the flash memory, just like I said. But if you press, on card, it just says there's no card, which makes perfect sense. So I think that's neat. I don't know how practical or necessary that is, because it's not like getting micro SD cards is all that expensive or whatever, but the point is it's cool, it does work. So I'm going to load up a Metal Slug now, just again to prove that it is in fact working. Starting, and then boom, there you go, it's going past all this. Again, we'll have to sit through the error message one more time. But yeah, man, overall I'd say that it's solid. It's what it's supposed to be. As far as I know, it has 100% compatibility. I don't think there's any awkward cases, because there's just not that many games on the platform to begin with. Yeah, see, there you go. Metal Slug's working just fine. I'm going to turn it off, though. But yeah, everything works just fine. It also opens the door to some of those rarer games if you want to be able to play those. And like I said, with the Dreamcast link capability, it's cool, because if you have things like the GDMU for the Dreamcast, you could mix that with the NeoPocket, and you could take like these 2 rare expensive games, like I think Twinkle Star Sprites is one of them. You could mix those together, and then, hey, I'm gonna have a party with this oddity. You just have to find, this super uncommon link cable. But yeah, that'll about do it. Thank you very much, everybody, for watching. If you could like, comment, and subscribe, I appreciate that. Thank you so much to Stone Age Gamer again for hooking me up with this. If you guys would be cool enough, check the link in the description if you're interested in this, or again, anything else that they have. Thank you very much for watching, and I'll see you all later.